All right, Juan. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us for a little while. Appreciate you.
Happy to be here.
All right. So I have a question about paddles. And for beginning to intermediate players, does it really matter what kind of paddle they use? I mean, are the differences seem so subtle that they wouldn't be able to even feel it?
Yeah, I think it does matter. And what's really confusing is I think there's, over 100 paddle manufacturers out there today. So being anybody, you, me, or even a beginner, finding the right equipment for you is a real challenge these days.
So if let's say I'm a 3-0 player, so I'm, kind of past the beginner stage and I'm starting to get a little bit better. What am I even looking for in a paddle? Like, where do I know, or how do I know where to start?
One of the best things you can do as any player is just try equipment, because there's no best paddle. The best paddle is whatever works best for you. And so being able to try equipment before you purchase it and find out what works best for you is absolutely the best way to go. And that can be a challenge, but I can give you some tips on that as well.
Okay, so what do you play with?
So what this is
and before we go forward, you're clearly not a 3-0 player. So.
How would you know? I just have a nice looking paddle. This is a head gravity tour. This is our 2022 line. What makes this paddle kind of special is the shape. You'll notice that it's wider at the top than it is at the bottom. That's what we refer to as a teardrop shaped paddle. And what that does is it creates a huge sweet spot. And most of us like to benefit from not always being able to hit it in the exact right middle place, but still get a good hit. And so this paddle provides me that opportunity. Even on mishits slightly, since I've got that bigger sweet spot, it still feels pretty solid.
So the size of the paddle, the size of the face is one thing, but the thickness is another. And I don't think I really understand that well.
Yeah, that could be really confusing too. This is a 13 millimeter paddle, and you'll find some that are as thick as 16. The thicker you go, typically the softer hit you're going to get. But at the same time, sometimes those thicker paddles provide a lot more pop and power. So that's, again, a personal preference. I personally like ones that are a little thinner on the 13 millimeter side. I find them to be a little bit more mobile. I can move them a little bit better than a heavier 16 millimeter paddle. And I get more feedback. Being that it's thinner, I actually, in my hand can feel the ball a little bit better than if it's, with a thicker paddle where I don't feel it as much.
So is it fair to say that a thinner paddle is more true to the hit that you make, and a thicker paddle might help you a little bit?
Yeah, I'd relate it to like golf clubs. They make golf clubs that are very forgiving, that have a lot of perimeter weighting on it. You might not feel it as well, but you get, really solid hits all the time. I think as a player in pickleball, you want to be able to get something that provides you very good feedback in the hands. And if you can get good feedback with a big, thick paddle and you like the way that feels, I wouldn't talk you away from that. But for me, a 13 millimeter with a teardrop shape right now is my preference.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I'm that 3-0 player. I'm looking at a bunch of paddles. I'm on Amazon. I'm at Pickleball Central. I'm overwhelmed. They range from price from $50 to $400. Where do I even start looking? Do I want carbon? What do I need in order to get a paddle that I'm not going to outgrow in 6 months?
Real challenge, because the landscape continues to change as far as what's available to you. But there's a lot of really good brands that I can help people recognize. We have a lot of really good players right here in our community that represent major manufacturers, and that's a great place to start, because again, that way you can actually try this stuff and see if you like it. There's also opportunities through some online retailers. I think Tennis Warehouse will let you rent like 3 paddles for a week for $20 of all different flavors, different manufacturers. And if you're not really sure what to do, that's another great way to just try some different things to see what you like.
So you did a demo day here recently, within the last week or two. What was the reception? How many people came out? They got their hands on a variety of head paddles, right?
Yeah, I think our community had a great time. I try to make it really fun and interactive, but mainly I just want to put paddles in hands. This is just one of many head paddles that I carry around, and at Head Demo Day, I think we had 15 different kinds of paddles that people could try, and we had contests. I was able to give away some prizes, and because it was on Saturday and we typically have 50 or 60 people here, we had really good participation. I think people had a good time.
So I'm at a demo day. I've got 10 different paddles to try. Can you tell me what I'm looking for? Is it just, hey, this feels good and this doesn't, or am I looking for some special certain thing to tell me if that paddle is going to be right for me?
Yeah, the first thing I usually do is I ask you what you're playing with already, because most players have been playing with a certain kind of paddle for a certain reason, and then I try to put something in their hands initially that's somewhat similar to what they might be used to, kind of the same weight perhaps. A lot of women will come to me and it's like, oh, I've got a hurt arm, or I want something that's a little bit lighter, and if I hear something like that, then I might have them start with a paddle that's a little bit on the lighter side. But really, it's an opportunity anytime you try equipment to just try different things. And you might find you've been playing with a really light paddle and like the weight of a heavier paddle a little bit better. It's such a personal preference thing. It's really hard to tell anybody what they should be playing without them just trying it for themselves.
I think it was Count Basie that said, if it sounds good, it is good, relating to music. Are paddles the same way? If it feels good, it's the right paddle for you?
I think so. I think once you find a paddle that feels good, then I think you're definitely on the right track to maybe, adopting something and trying it for a little while. I wouldn't discourage anybody from trying different things even after that. But once you find something that feels really good, like the Count said, that's probably the thing you want to stick with initially, I would say.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is a little bit of a sore subject for me because I don't have a head paddle. How long should if you're an avid recreational tournament player, how long should a paddle last?
That's a really good question. This paddle here has a 1-year manufacturer's warranty. But honestly, if you play a lot, it probably won't last a year because you'll just wear it out. But we do, at Head anyway, we do guarantee our equipment for up to 1 year for manufacturer's defects. So if you wear this paddle out just for regular play, we can turn it to our manufacturer, and if they deem it to be a defect, you'll get a brand new paddle. You could almost get 2 for 1. And most manufacturers will do that. But honestly, if you're playing a lot, most paddles will not last up to a year. So you probably want a backup paddle or look at maybe getting another one, sometime within a year's period. This paddle also has something called spin-on technology. I know you can't feel this on the camera, but this is a really gritty surface, and we created this so that players can impart more spin on the ball. Right in the sweet spot here on both sides of my paddle, it's really started to wear off. That's not a manufacturer's defect. That will happen with any raw carbon paddle or anything out there. But I've only been playing with this paddle about 6 months, so it's about time for me to switch to something different because I've just worn out the spin technology.
So this is not a marriage with a paddle. It's a long-term relationship. You might get a year out of it, and then you got to move on to another. It could be the same model, but you're going to have to get a new one at that point.
Yeah, just like any other kind of equipment that's out there in the world in any sport, we keep coming up with newer and greater things. We have some really exciting equipment coming out this fall and early next winter that I'm excited to try that I haven't tried yet, and who knows, I might even switch to that. So you're right. Right now I'm married to this, but it doesn't mean I'll play with it all the time.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Juan. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time. All right.